Each morning, before the machinery of the world begins to grind, we awaken into a battlefield that few dare to name. It is not out there, it is within. The first sensation is not always peace. It is memory. It is unfinished conversations, silent rivalries, private fears, old humiliations, replaying themselves with cruel precision. The mind, left untended, is a theater of exaggeration, and if we are not vigilant, we rise already conquered. So we begin before we rise from the bed. We begin with the first discipline. Separate what is ours from what is not. Epictetus spoke with unsettling clarity. Some things are up to us and some things are not. The line is simple. Living, it is not. The weather is not ours. The market is not ours. The opinions of others, their moods, their loyalty, their betrayal, none of it is ours. Even the body we inhabit is only partially obedient. What is ours? Judgment, intention, choice. If we fail to draw this boundary at dawn, emotion floods across it by noon. We rage at traffic. We resent colleagues. We replay words spoken years ago. We attempt to control what was never submitted to our command, so we redraw the line each morning. We say quietly, "Today, I will govern only what belongs to me." And with that, something shifts. The chaos outside may remain, but the chaos inside begins to recede. The second discipline is less comforting. Before we meet the world, we anticipate its friction. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of the known world, wrote to himself, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." These were not the words of a cynic. They were the strategy of a man who refused to be surprised. By human nature, we do the same. We expect delay. We expect misunderstanding. We expect that someone, somewhere, will act from ignorance or insecurity. This expectation is not bitterness. It is preparation. Emotion feeds on violated expectation. Anger often begins with the silent sentence, "This should not be happening." But why not? Human beings are flawed. Systems are imperfect. Fortune is unstable. If we enter the day believing otherwise, we volunteer for outrage. So we rehearse adversity not obsessively, but soberly. We imagine the insult before it lands. We imagine the plan unraveling. We imagine the credit going elsewhere, and in imagining it, we blunt its edge. The day does not become easier. We become steadier. Still, preparation does not eliminate emotion. It only reduces its ambush. So when anger rises, and it will, we practice the third discipline. Create distance between feeling and judgment. Seneca warned us, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. A comment becomes a condemnation. A delay becomes a disaster. A mistake becomes a permanent stain. The mind is not content with facts. It manufactures catastrophes. We feel the heat of anger, the tightening of the chest, the quickened pulse, but instead of obeying it, we interrogate it. What, precisely, has happened? What story am I adding to it? Is this within my control? There is a narrow space between stimulus and response. Most people live as if that space does not exist. They move from feeling to action with mechanical obedience. But in that narrow space lies our sovereignty. We learn to pause, not to suppress emotion that only buries it alive, but to examine it. Emotion is information. It signals a perceived threat, a violated value, a wounded pride. But perception is not always truth. By slowing the mind, we prevent it from hardening into judgment. By examining the narrative, we weaken its grip. The insult may remain, the setback may remain, but the inner storm begins to dissipate. The fourth discipline requires deliberate discomfort. We choose what most avoid. In a culture intoxicated by ease, we practice restraint. We delay gratification. We endure cold without complaint. We work when we would rather scroll. We listen when we would rather speak. Seneca practiced poverty to inoculate himself against fear. He would live simply, eat modestly, and ask himself, "Is this what I feared?" The purpose was not self-punishment. It was liberation. Fear of loss fuels many destructive emotions. We fear losing status, comfort, approval, and so we cling. We manipulate, we panic. But if we train ourselves to survive with less, we become difficult to intimidate. When we voluntarily step into minor hardship, we prove something to ourselves. We can endure. Comfort weakens resolve. Chosen difficulty strengthens it. Each small act of discipline, waking early, finishing what we start, holding the tongue when anger begs to speak, fortifies the will. And a fortified will is less easily hijacked by emotion. The fifth discipline, expands our vision. When we are overwhelmed, it is often because we have shrunk our perspective to the size of the moment. We stand too close to the canvas and mistake a dark brushstroke for the entire painting. Marcus Aurelius practiced viewing life from above. He imagined cities reduced to specks, empires rising and collapsing, generations appearing and vanishing like mist. Against this backdrop, personal grievances lose their theatrical importance. We try the same. We imagine ourselves decades from now, looking back at this very irritation. Will it matter? We imagine the vast procession of human history, billions who have loved, feared, struggled, and died. Our humiliation, our frustration, our wounded pride, where do they stand in this immensity? This is not to belittle our experience. It is to contextualize it. Most destructive emotions are distortions of scale. We inflate the immediate, we absolutize the temporary. We treat inconvenience as catastrophe. When we widen our lens, we restore proportion. The argument becomes a minor event. In a long life, the failure becomes a lesson in a larger curriculum. The embarrassment becomes a fleeting tremor in an otherwise steady existence. Perspective does not erase pain, it prevents it from ruling us. The sixth discipline anchors us in character. If we define ourselves by outcomes, we will be perpetually unstable. Outcomes fluctuate. Fortune rotates without consulting us. Praise turns to criticism with alarming speed. But if we define ourselves by our conduct, by our commitment to justice, courage, restraint, and clarity, then we carry our identity within. Marcus wrote with urgency, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." We cannot control whether our efforts succeed. We can control whether they are honorable. We cannot control whether we are recognized. We can control whether we act with integrity. When anger tempts cruelty, we remember our standard. When fear tempts dishonesty, we remember our standard. When envy tempts resentment, we remember our standard. Character becomes the fixed point in a spinning world, and when identity is anchored in virtue rather than validation, emotion loses much of its leverage. Insults no longer threaten who we are. Losses no longer define our worth. We remain intact. The seventh discipline closes the day as deliberately as we began it. Night falls, the noise quiets, and we return to ourselves for an audit. Seneca described this ritual with intimate precision. When the house was silent, he would review his entire day, his actions, his reactions, his failures, his improvements. We do the same. Where did anger master me? Where did fear distort my judgment? Where did I act according to principle despite pressure? There is no self-condemnation here, only correction. We are craftsmen refining our work. Each mistake is material for improvement. Each success is proof of progress. This nightly examination prevents complacency. It keeps us honest. It transforms each day into training. Over time, the transformation is subtle but profound. The anger that once erupted now flickers and fades. The fear that once paralyzed now informs without dominating. Envy that once poisoned now dissolves under scrutiny. We do not become emotionless. We become governed. Modern scholars describe this as cognitive discipline, the deliberate shaping of interpretation. But long before terminology, there was practice. Daily, patient, unspectacular practice. And this is the hidden truth. Mastery of the inner world is not achieved in grand gestures. It is built in quiet mornings, restrained responses, honest reflections. We will still feel anger. We will still feel fear. We will still feel grief. To be human is to feel, but we will not be dragged. When insulted, we will pause. When frustrated, we will assess. When afraid, we will act according to reason rather than impulse. The world will remain unpredictable. People will remain flawed. Circumstances will shift without warning. Yet within us, there can be order, an inner citadel, as Marcus described, it a fortress not of stone, but of judgment, a place we can retreat to and find clarity, a place where values are not negotiated by mood. Each morning, we rebuild it, each challenge strengthens it, each disciplined response adds another layer of stone, and so we walk this path together. We will not eliminate destructive emotions by wishing them away. We will outgrow their tyranny through vigilance, through perspective, through chosen hardship, through moral intention, through reflection. We will remember that anger is often wounded pride, that fear is often imagined catastrophe, that envy is often insecurity seeking validation, and we will meet each of them not with denial, but with examination. Because the greatest freedom available to us is not freedom from difficulty. It is freedom from being ruled by it. When we control our judgments, we control our responses. When we control our responses, we shape our character. When we shape our character, we shape our lives. This is our work, not glamorous, not loud, but enduring. And tomorrow morning, before the world begins again, we will wake and we will begin again.